So, welcome to Las Piñata, the podcast where we talk about navigating your creative lifestyle.
And
I'm
this is,
Darren.
and I'm Dave. Sorry, I bungled it. I don't have the script in front of me. Sorry, I apologize. But this is the post-show recap of our
This is
heroic origins episode.
right. Well, this is, a follow up. It's kind of like a post game show
Did I say post game? Post, yeah.
No, you said post show. No, but it is like a post game. It's exactly right. So, we're going to talk about, basically, I had it in my head for a second there.
We should write these things down.
Well, we should, but why would we do that when we
Yeah,
can?
what's the point of that?
Yeah, we can wing it. No, the idea being that talking about actually what we just did with our plotcast, we came up with a character by the name of Square Jam, and it was a perfectly conceived, I think, character for a youth crowd that embodied a lot of difficult storylines as well as some lighter elements, and maybe we could talk about that. That's what I was thinking of.
Well, I think, I think it's kind of interesting. And, I would say that I think originally we had the idea that he would be able to expand his body. Like he would elongate, but right now it just seems like he's sweat and goo, and that's his whole sweat and psychedelic goo. And I kind of feel like that's the only power that really matters to some degree,
right.
But I mean, is he still? I mean, are we going to get to the point where we talk about him sort of slowly expanding into a wall of goo?
Well, I mean, I think that's the sort of thing where, as he progresses and grows, because he's starting out as a young character. As he grows, I mean, it's like he has levels to still achieve. I mean, he's a demigod, so we're talking about a character that is not powered.
Here's a question. Are we assuming people have already watched that episode, or do we want to recap what we just did, like the actual content we created? So what we did is the way we do it is we have the summary of the character that we brainstormed last time, and then we have a six issue outline that we're kind of trying to fill in, and we generate random plot, character, and setting elements using a defunct game system that I never.
A story generating
system that I created some years ago, and we add those elements in there, and then we have to just sort of build the story for each issue around those three elements. And what we ended up coming up with was kind of the origin story of Square Jam, where he's he shows up at a party. The older kids, an older basketball player, is trying to use him for his psychedelic powers, and everybody gets high, somebody gets hurt, and he gets taken into custody by the police. And while there, he gets reunited, or not even reunited, united with he comes into contact with his godlike fungus father, who spirits him away.
Yes, it's hard to, his father, who is a god of fungus.
He's not a godfather. He's a father who's a god. His deific father, who takes him away to show him how he can create life on other planets,
right.
And then brings him back, and his mother takes him, and they bond over this arrest because she got arrested a bunch when she was a kid. And then when he tells her about his encounter with his father, she takes him to the place where she met the father, explains how he helped heal her or helped her recover from a drug addiction, and then takes him home. And when Bradley gets there and he's getting ready for bed, he finds a little fungal growth on his shoulder that turns out to be a gift from his dad, who's a little mentor kind of a sidekick character that's going to train him on how to use his powers. And that's the cliffhanger that we leave on.
Well, that's his beginning his hero journey.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's where we ended up.
But what it made me think of are characters like the Hulk, who have childhood trauma, and we actually experience our trauma with our character in the in the bearing of his body so that people can take pieces of him.
Yes.
So, and just like how you impart these things into characters without being explicit about it in a way, like making it something else.
Well, what's interesting is that, the idea that he has this drive to be popular, and
Mm-hmm.
that, like there's an older, kid who's kind of leading him in this direction. That totally sounds like somebody who's got daddy issues, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
somebody who's missing a father figure in their life. They're reaching out to these other people. So totally fits.
right. Well, I was thinking more of the yes, that definitely fits. But I was just thinking more of the how we often don't get there with the characters making it exactly something that is in reality does happen to kids where they have like real traumatic things happen.
Yeah, yeah.
But instead we
It's a
create
metaphor.
a scenario. Yeah, it's a metaphor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So obviously, it could be a much worse thing than having people pluck psychedelic cubes off your body. So I don't know, but yeah, I worry. Yeah, this is if we actually sat down and actually drew this up and stuff. There's a little bit of a delicate balance there. How would you do this in a way that it wouldn't be uh, potentially offensive to people?
yeah. Well, I think it helps a lot for one that we made it a boy instead of a girl.
That's true. Yeah. Mhm.
That because I was thinking about like, oh God, this is so many parallels to things that could, but it's a good it is a good metaphor because of that. So,
Yeah.
but it could be, yeah, drawing that out. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like I just see that you have so much space to explore those kinds of things. I mean, if his origin had lasted longer, honestly, then you get a lot more different scenarios and things where you a lot of different situations where like that could have been a continuing,
I'm glad that we skipped over the part where he dunks the ball and splatters everybody with psychedelic goo,
uh,
because I'm not sure how that would have. I'm not sure how we were going to make that work. Um, but hey, let me ask you this, Terrence. Since this is a discussion about this is our creative lifestyle podcast. Um, how did you feel like this process, the one that we have set up, how does it, you know, encourage the creative process? What did you like or dislike about the way that we brainstorm these stories?
well, I think that what we do that's really helpful is really our time limit. That because we could drone on forever and ever. I mean, we find that like when we run out of time, that we've generally been just stuck on one part of it that we could keep going on and on about. But just saying, okay, now we're out of time for that. And we got to move to the next thing. Like being able to cut it off and say, okay, we'll come back to that. Because you can obsess over details and not get through the rest of the story.
Yeah, so the time limit, yeah, I think the time limit's really helpful. And what's more is it forces us to make choices. I think that's the thing, is it forces us to make choices. And yeah, we may not get to everything, but I think most of the time we did. And sometimes we made, you make placeholder things that you're going to go back to, and then most of it turned out to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we didn't really make any changes. We ended up adding a couple things in the revision process. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, no, that story, I think it started out shaky, and I think even when we were in the revision process, I'd forgotten that parts of it were already there. Like I was still looking at things that were in the second issue that I thought
Sure.
were in the first.
Well, I think because we knew we had missed that in the first issue, that we kind of, looked at it that way, you
but
know.
but it all comes together in a really good way. I think ultimately like
I
that.
think it did. Yeah. Actually, we've been doing this kind of, adding random elements for a while now to our brainstorming process. And I'm, you know, ten, I'm not surprised at this point that it works, but I mean, definitely, in the long run, it's like, wow, that works better than you might have thought,
Yeah,
adding random elements like that.
yeah. It makes me honestly makes me think. How radically different would that be to just be using AI to throw random things together?
Well, do you have any AI ready to
Not,
go? I guess we could do that.
nothing ready to go, but that's something that would be interesting to explore at some point in time. Because that's what people who like claim that because like I think of people who like they claim to do art or do writing and use AI, and it's like, oh, it's just it gives you basically kind of you throw in some stuff and see what it comes up with, and it's like, but that's not really you know
I think it'd be a lot less coherent, is my guess.
yeah yeah.
That it would,
But I
'cause what would you put into the AI generator? I mean, would we put the summary of the character
If we
and
put
then
if we put
yeah,
our random elements in, and I wonder if you could put them in a way similar to what we've done, where you say this is a character setting, this is the
uh,
this is the character, this is their power, this is their family, some of those elements that we came up with that were random, and just say now make a character, make a story out of that.
so we just say take this information, make it. Yeah, that would be interesting to see.
So
Hmm. God,
you
I'd hate it if it came up with something better.
I doubt that it would. I really doubt that it would. But could come up with something that is, a readable, is a entertaining story, and ultimately, So I don't know,
I
but
think it would have a hard time doing. I mean, we came up with some different things that were not already contained.
right.
So I'm wondering if it would even pull in. Would it?
It'd be,
We fleshed things out as we wrote it, and I think that it might just try to regurgitate. But I don't know. We don't know until we actually try it. I'm trying to think. What is a? I'm going to see here if I can find something that's just doesn't need time to load or whatever. AI story generator.
well, I was going to say next week, are we going to do a live draw? Is that our?
Yeah, next week we're going to do that, but I'm going to just.
Because I was going to say I could find because I know I've got like a Chat GPT account thing set up, but I stopped playing with it. Like I was playing with it when it first came out. I shouldn't say first came out, when I first knew about it, but I haven't played with it since because it's really I don't find it very effective unless you're doing something really basic.
What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in the summary of the character plus the story, the elements from the first issue, and just see what it comes up with. So. Wait. Well, that didn't work the way it said it was going to. It said it was free.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. We'll revisit this next week on Las Piñata. How's that? or during
Oh
our
wait,
live.
are we wrapping things up? Is that what you're
I was
saying?
gonna say, we could go into that further, like with the
It's
character, just to see what it does.
oh wait, it's here. It is. It's coming up right now. This is the
Oh,
beginning of the story. This is just the first paragraph.
okay.
You're not going to believe what happened to Larry, Bradley exclaimed as he flopped down beside his friend Alex in the crowded lunchroom. The smell of mystery meat and overcooked veggies filled the air, but Bradley's mind was on the peculiar event of the morning. That's what it came up with. That's it.
Okay.
So that's writing it as like a straight up story, not like a plot. So okay,
Yeah. But
what we did was very different.
it could
Okay,
be. You never know. You never know what you'd end up with. So.
I guess what we should do is anyway, we actually take the story summary that we did for like issue 1
Yeah.
and see what it came up with there. You sure you don't want to explore this one a little bit more yet?
Well, not today. I was going to say, why don't we explore it more next week? Playing with AI next week.
But I've got AI right here, right now.
I was really more interested in childhood trauma and that in media, but our conversation didn't go that direction.
Oh, this is it. You're either with us or against us, Bradley, sneered Mark, the school's self-proclaimed social kingpin. His entourage of sycophantic jocks and popular girls snickered in the corner of the crowded garage, their eyes glinting with cruel amusement. Oh, that actually sounds.
Hmm.
Let's see, what's the next paragraph? Bradley felt a bead of sweat trickle down his spine, his heart hammering in his chest. He had hoped that this party would be his chance to finally fit in, to shake off the stigma of being the quiet kid from the wrong side of town. But there he was, cornered by the very people he had hoped to impress. The throb of bass from the speakers seemed to echo his anxiety. He glanced down at the shirt in his hands, a gift from his grandma, now crumpled into a sad little ball. I'm allowed to just sort of keep generating paragraphs. You want another one?
Okay.
What is this? This is just an AI story generator I found online. Perchance.org, I guess is what it is. The garage was a world. The garage was a whirl of lights and shadows. The air thick with scent of cheap beer and burnt pizza. He could, God, not making me hungry. He could feel the weight of judgment pressing down on him like a hot, heavy blanket. His mind raced, searching for an escape, a way to diffuse the situation without losing face. And then a sudden gust of cooler air blew in from the open door, and with it, a beacon of hope. The star of the basketball team, Jake, strode in, his confidence as palpable as the bass. He was the one person who could turn the tide in Bradley's favor. I don't know. It's following the story.
It is.
It's a little bit overwrought.
Yeah, it's a bit much, but
it's I don't know. It's kind. I'm kind of curious to see where it goes. Jake's eyes scanned the room, and when they landed on Bradley, a glint of mischief sparked. "Looks like someone needs a little help," he said, his voice cutting through the din. The crowd parted like the Red Sea for Moses, eager to see what the captain had in store. He sauntered over, a knowing smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "If you want to be popular, Bradley," Jake said, his voice low and conspiratorial, "you got to give the people what they want." Oh my God, they actually put the quote in there. Should I keep going?
Yeah, I'm in it now. So
Bradley's heart skipped a beat. He had no idea what Jake was referring to, but he was desperate enough to play along. "Take it off," Jake whispered, a glint in his eye. Bradley looked down at his shirt, then back up at Jake, his mind racing. The chant grew louder, a mix of excitement and challenge. "Take it off," the crowd echoed. He took a deep breath and pulled his shirt over his head, his chest heaving with nerves. I'm wondering how they're going to fit in the Square Jam stuff.
Yeah. That's what I want to get to. Is like what
the room was silent. The only sound, the thump of bass from the party's playlist. They're really into that thumping bass.
Yeah.
The crumpled garment fell to the floor, revealing a tattoo on Bradley's chest. It was a square about the size of his palm, with intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with a strange, otherworldly energy. Jake's smile grew wider as he leaned in closer, his eyes fixated on the tattoo. "This is your ticket," he murmured, before turning to face the crowd. Okay. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jake announced, raising his arms for dramatic effect, "introducing Bradley, the square-popping sensation." The crowd erupted into cheers and laughter, and Bradley felt a swell of relief and excitement. He had no idea what was happening, but the hostility had evaporated. Jake's hand closed around his shoulder in a firm grip, and he led him to the center of the room. The basketball captain leaned in and whispered, "Just go with it, trust me," before Bradley could respond. Jake's hand was on the square tattoo, pressing down firmly. The tattoo began to bulge, and Bradley felt an odd pressure from within. His ancestral memories surfaced, images of a garden, of being plucked with soil from the soil like a rare mushroom. The room around him grew brighter, more vivid, as the square in his chest grew and grew. This is interesting. God, I hate this. I hate the fact
that I'm kind of like, wow.
Oh, God.
Anything I ever got out of a, yeah.
Oh, I think here we go. With a sudden pop, the tattoo burst open, revealing a small glowing cube that hovered in the air. The partygoers grasped, and the music screeched to a halt. Or they gasped. The partygoers gasped, and the music screeched to a halt. The cube grew larger, pulsating with a hypnotic rhythm, and Bradley felt a strange warmth spreading through his body. The patterns on the cube's surface grew more complex, and he realized that they matched the patterns of his ancestral visions. Interesting. Slowly. Loading. Jake stepped back, his eyes wide with amusement. "It's Square Jam," he exclaimed. "The stuff of legends." He turned to Bradley with newfound respect. "You're the real deal, man." The crowd closed in, their curiosity piqued by the mysterious object. The cube pulsed faster, and Bradley's skin began to tingle. Without warning, the cube exploded into a shower of light, and the room was bathed in an array of colors that danced and swirled around the partygoers. The lights from the disco ball above the makeshift dance floor refracted through the light, casting kaleidoscope of patterns on the walls, floor, and ceiling. The music restarted, a catchy tune that seemed to sync with the light show, and everyone began to move in unison, their movements fluid and uninhibited. And it just kept writing here. It actually just started pouring out paragraphs. As the light and color enveloped them, Bradley felt himself slipping into a new reality. His senses heightened. He could hear the whispers of the plants outside, the secret conversations of the stars above, and the laughter of the partygoers as if they were sharing his own thoughts. The garage was no longer just a garage. It was a nexus of energy, a living, breathing space that responded to the beat of the music and the emotions of those present. One by one, the partygoers reached out to touch the light, their faces contorting with delight as they began to trip. Mark, the bully, was the first to touch the light, and his eyes rolled back in his head. He stumbled out into the street, his movements erratic. A car honked, and Bradley watched in horror as Mark was struck. The world grew quiet for a moment, the light from the cube fading as reality crashed back in. The partygoers stumbled back, the joyous atmosphere shattered by the impact. Bradley rushed to the door, his heart in his throat. Mark lay motionless on the asphalt, the car's headlights illuminating his lifeless body. They killed him. The driver, a young woman, sat frozen in shock behind the wheel. The party had taken a dark turn, and Bradley's newfound popularity was drenched in cold, stark terror. The night had gone from a chance at redemption to a grim reminder of the power that lay within the square on his chest. Oh, they actually nailed the landing. Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh, I don't like it. I don't like it.
Too good. Jesus. Yeah.
Issue 1
in there, and it made it. It made it into a full. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually pretty interesting. Oh,
wow.
There, I don't like the idea that we're now turning people onto AI rather than them doing their own work. So, I don't know.
That I did not expect any. I expected more hilarity of it making a mess of everything.
Yeah, me too. Well, I mean, I've thought for a while that eventually, and maybe it's already there, but eventually, the AI is going to be able to match anything the humans do.
Yeah. I mean, the pattern recognition. That's a lot of storytelling. Really, there is just.
Well, it's true, but that's true with people too, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, it takes some of the fun of actually writing out.
Well,
but it did take our summary. It took our summary of the story, and it, it fleshed it out pretty well. So, so I guess this is I hate giving this moral as a story, but if you are a burgeoning creative, it might be able to give you at least a rough draft that you can.
Yeah. I mean, granted, I think, after you've come up with the plot and all of that, you could have written that, it fleshed it out a lot, but you could have.
Well, I mean, it definitely took a different direction than I would have taken it. I mean, we had talked about cubes popping out all over his body.
Oh,
that was cute. It was like pushing a button and like this big cube appeared.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I think we should just quit this podcast now. I don't like it. I don't want to encourage people to use AI. I want people to go out and actually do their own creative stuff.
I mean, I can cut out this entire part of
well, maybe we should do that. Hey, everybody, we're never going to look at AI. I don't know, it'd be like a cover up. Well, this is this is an issue here. It's like, how do artists deal with AI? Because it's
Yeah, that's
there's no question. I mean, there's a lot of people out there. I think this is something we got to reconcile. Is that there's a lot of people out there that actually have interesting ideas, but either don't want to do the work to flesh them out, or they don't feel, or maybe they don't have the skill to do it. Right.
right.
Um, and this
And
does,
it's, I mean, and AI honestly has been around for a long time
of course.
for assisting things like, there have been AI editors and grammar things for years and years now. So, I
Well,
mean,
but that's a little
those,
different because I think that's a. I don't feel like that impinges on that. That doesn't.
that can change sentence structure and paragraphs and approaches, and just like being able to just like look online and find, synonyms to a word, things like that.
But I don't think. I mean, but it's doing editing. I mean, I think if you hired an editor, you would not consider them to be a collaborator on the story. It's
Right.
just saying this is a clearer way to make a sentence.
Yeah.
Whereas this is, actually doing the craft of writing.
Yeah.
You know, um, the word choices. How flowery is it going to be? There's details of the story that are worked out there. So I mean, it's a different level. It's a different level. I mean, we could also explore, and we probably shouldn't shy away from this if this is about creative lifestyles. I mean, this is
Right.
something that's there. The alternative would be, another thing would be to get an image. I mean, there's got to be like a comic book AI out there, something that's like you put in the plot and it'll
It'll
lay
draw
out a comic for
for
you.
you. That would be interesting.
I wouldn't be. I mean, I, that might be something to research, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Um, let's see if there's comic book AI generator. Let's see if that even is out there. Just as a AI comic factory, generate comics with hugging face. I don't know what that is. Comicsmaker.ai, create comics using AI. Yeah, so this is there. They've got that.
So that may be something then to explore in the future.
In the future, yeah, I think it's time to sign out. I think the point is though is I'm actually, unlike most of these episodes, I'm thoroughly depressed now at the result of that AI experiment. So
Well, it's a good thing that that's it for this episode.
bye everybody.
You
Make art.
enjoyed it. Be sure
Make
to like.
art or go wallow in or wallow in defeat at our robot overlords.
Yeah, all it
Supplanting
takes
them.
is a bucket of water and you're back to square one.
Yeah.
But if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, follow, and share the program with your friends.
I've lost the script. Just finish it.
You can also check out Dave's other podcasts,
Just the Raw Songwriting Podcast.
Well, and then I guess Heroic Origins is back.
Oh, Heroic Origins. Actually, I guess Very Scary with Jerry McCrary will soon be back as well.
Okay, so look at that. And so now it's time for you to whack your own piñata and see what shakes out.
Get lost.
Be it.